Hello again, everyone. My name is Megan Sullivan, and welcome back to my Let's Play series for Hermes Rescue Mission, developed by Platinum Games and published by Alloware. You can check out the game by clicking on the link in the description below. So let's go back to hard mode and continue the game. So in the last two episodes, we talked about Hermes and the importance of his cult during the Bronze Age. We also talked a little bit about the geometric period of Greece, which lasted from about, 1000 BCE-ish until around 700 BCE. Now today, we're going to talk about Hermes in the Archaic period of Greece, which starts around the 8th century BCE and lasts until the mid-5th century BCE. The Archaic period, of course, is an extremely important time in Greek history. You guys, this is when the Greek city-states start to emerge. This is when writing is reintroduced into Greece thanks to the Phoenicians. This is when the traditional Greek temple starts to appear. What else? This is when Greek hoplites make their first appearance, and it's when the Greeks resume traveling around the Mediterranean and establishing diplomatic and trade relations with other cultures. And it's during the Archaic period that we really start to learn details about Hermes. And here he is, just chilling, waiting for me to start. We learn about who he is, what he does, what he means to the Greeks, etc. And that's because of archaic authors like Homer, Hesiod, Aesop, Alcaeus, Sappho, and Pindar, and I apologize if I'm butchering any of those names, but because some later authors also mention what might be very ancient cult practices involving Hermes in the Archaic period, so I'm talking about authors like Herodotus, Plato, Pausanias, etc., I'll probably be citing them as well, and I suspect this will be a two-part episode. There's a lot to cover when it comes to Hermes in the Archaic period. Speaking of which, we also know a lot about Hermes and how people saw him during this time period thanks to a rich treasure trove of archaic art. Whether that's, pottery, votive offerings, or statues, we can see what the Greeks imagined Hermes to look like throughout the centuries. And I'm really excited to show you guys some images of Hermes from this specific time period as I go along. And yes, all images are in the public domain. But before we start the history lesson, we gotta start the actual game. I'm really excited to do so. We're at level 17. All right, so I've never seen such thick fog here. I have a feeling that this isn't ordinary fog, but a poisonous mist sent by Hades. Don't come close. I'll consult with the god of winds. He should know what it is. I'm Aeolus, sorry, Lord of the air and an indispensable helper for humans. I keep the winds and storms in chains. I really like the art, by the way. Only my power can dispel the darkness that covered the earth. All right, so a new test is being sent by Hades. Poisonous mist versus wind power. We'll see. So our tasks are to eliminate poisonous mist, drive away Hades' servants, feed citizens, and clear the way to the cook. All right, let's see if I can give a history lesson and do this at the same time. Okay, so here's our starting point. All right, what have we got here? We have some crabs. We've got some stone heaps. We've got some servants of Hades. Let's see, what is this? So this is the destroyed altar to the winds. So we really need to fix that. Here's the destroyed forge. All right, poisonous mist. All right, the broken trader tent is all the way over here. All right, we got a lot of work cut out for us, but I think we can do it. Are you guys ready? Let's get started. Okay. So Hades sent poisonous mist to the village. Restore the altar of Aeolus so that he can dispel it with winds. All right. Let's get going. Look at that. Already, my workers are doing a great job. We've got a bank that we're going to fix. Get this pottery out of the way. Is there anything else I can remove? Not just yet. All right. Here we go. Let's see. We always need food. I always feel like we have more food than we do, but we actually don't. So we do have an olive tree there. All right. Let's go ahead and repair this tent. All right. We're doing great. All right. Gonna repair that. All right, there's an eagle. That's always a good sign. That's a sign of Zeus. And the thing about Hermes is he actually is associated with omens that have to do with bird signs. That is a gift given to him by Apollo. I believe in the Hymn to Hermes. I think the Hymn to Hermes mentions that. All right. We're doing great here. Yeah. All right, let's repair this. All right, that's going away. Excellent. All right, we're making pretty good time, I think. I think Hermes is just sort of chilling there. All right. Now we've got to... There we go. Destroyed forge. All right. Excellent. Time is of the essence. There we go. Gotta get rid of this mist. So we gotta... All right, there we go. Now we can finally repair this. Repair the Temple of Winds. All right. Excellent. Good job. We're doing great. We're doing great. Here we go. What else can Zeus remove? And anything for us? Not yet. All right. Building upgrade. Here we go. All right. Where is Ares' broken chariot? Because we got to get him to, there we go. All right, there we go. As soon as the winds kick in, I think we'll be able to find it. All right. Awesome. All right, there are these ruins. Quite ready, though. Got some stuff over here, though, we can get rid of. All right. All right, that's what it is. I was like, where is that chariot? It's all the way up here. All right. Got a building slot. Whoop, get that out of the way. We're close. We're close. What do we need? We need probably another bank. Looks like we're running behind on money. We're gonna fix that. There we go. All right. Now I've repaired Ares' chariot. Excellent. All right, and now we can start getting rid of these crab creatures. Sweet. All right. Very good. Ares can take care of that minion. All right. I think Ares can also get rid of that crab. Get some more money here. Right, and then we have Zeus get rid of that. All right, and just upgrade this bank. So always something to do. We're super busy. And that actually is an epithet of Hermes in antiquity. He was called the busy one because he had so many different vocations. All right. All right, we're going to feed these citizens who've been waiting patiently, by the way. They were so quiet, I almost forgot about them. And then I looked down and like, what do I still need to do? I still need to feed some people. All right. We need to get to this cook as well. He's also just been quietly sitting there. All right. We've got to get Ares to go get this guy as well. I'm sort of lurking in the background. go. All right, more food. This for Aries. Excellent. Is there anything else we need to get? Alright. There we go. Now we can get rid of this guy. Alright. Just need one more weapon for Aries there. Let's feed the people. I think that's the last thing we have to do, too. Yeah, we did it! Okay. We did it. We fed the citizens. We got rid of the poison mist. We got a star. Not great, but not terrible. Okay. So let's move on. That was the first level down. So now let's talk about Hermes in the Archaic period. And hey, no surprise, the earliest written reference to Hermes we have is from Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, which were written down around the mid to late 8th century BCE. Now, Hermes is only mentioned a handful of times in the Iliad and the Odyssey, but what we learn about him from these two epics, which are part of a larger epic cycle, is pretty significant. So, for example, Homer calls Hermes Giant Slayer, a reference to a myth in which Hermes is sent by the king of the god Zeus to slay the 100-eyed giant Argus and retrieve the nymph Io, whom Zeus has fallen in love with. There are a couple of different variants of this myth, but one version has Hermes put the giant to sleep with a wand or magical words before killing him, which is why Hermes is sometimes portrayed in art with a sword. Now, by the way, Hermes is also famous for slaying another giant named Hippolytus in a war against the giants. But I think that story is recorded a little later. At any rate, Homer also calls Hermes a guide. And we actually see Hermes in this role in both the Iliad and the Odyssey. So, for example, in Book 24 of the Iliad, Hermes is sent to Earth to safely guide the king of Troy, Priam, through enemy lines so the king can reach the Greek warrior Achilles and ask him to give back the body of Hector, which, of course, Achilles has desecrated in a fit of rage. And the way Hermes accomplishes this is to put the Greek sentries to sleep, which is the same thing he did with the giant Argos, by the way, and then lead Priam to Achilles. And then later, Hermes actually wakes Priam up after the latter falls asleep in the Greek camp so that Priam can escape safely. So it's Hermes' job to safely guide Priam in and out of the Greek camp. And it's interesting to note, by the way, that despite there actually being a divinity known as sleep, as in the personification of sleep in the Iliad, Hermes is able to use a wand to wake people up or put them to sleep. This epithet this description of him using a golden wand to put people to sleep is, it comes up more than once. So, and this makes sense because people transition between a state of being awake and asleep. At any rate, Hermes also goes on to guide, in the form of sage advice, the hero Odysseus in the Odyssey by giving Odysseus moly, as in holy moly, and telling him to use it to counteract the magic of the sorceress Circe, whose island Odysseus has just landed on during his journey home. But there's another way Hermes guides people, and we'll get to that in a second. But first, let's go on here to level 18. The statue of Odyssey can strengthen the spirit of resistance of the Greeks. How funny, we were just talking about the Odyssey. I think they mean to say the statue of Odysseus. Repair the statue of Odysseus, clear the river, chase away bats, and drive away the satyrs. Okay. So here we are. And we have to drive away the satyrs, chase away bats, clear the river, repair the statue of Odysseus. Where is the statue? Oh, here it is. Okay. And we're all the way over here. Okay. Let's get going. All right. We're going to grab some food. Try to go as fast as we can here. There we go. What do we need? We'll say we need a query. It's always a little bit of a guess. Like, what do I need? What do I need first? Oh, I don't know. It's always a gamble. But luckily, we can always rebuild and get some money going too. I just feel like I'm short on money. Like, there's gold lying around, but there's just not enough. to make a major difference. We're gonna grab this delicious food though. Gosh, this is making me hungry. Olives, cheese, grapes. I love the Mediterranean diet. Of course I do. I'm a California girl. And it's great. All right, there we go. We're gonna repair this bridge. All right, what can Zeus help us with? Let's get rid of that lava. All right. Can't quite repair this bridge yet. All right, we've got here. Let's get rid of some of this stuff. There we go. Hermes is going to take care of that scary plant. All right, we need more quarry gold, quarry stone and gold. All right, let's just pick up some more stuff here. Great. I have to tell you guys, this game is just so much fun. It's such a delight. It's so simple. Like it's challenging enough to keep you engaged, but it's relaxing enough that you have fun. You don't feel a super amount of pressure. Like I could return to these levels again and again to get, you know, that perfect score and have no problem with it. It's pretty great. All right. Hermes is just there chilling, waiting for us to do the next thing. Can we upgrade this? Okay, we can upgrade this because I need him to get more stuff for Hermes. Oh, we can actually get Ares involved now that we can repair his chariot. Let's see. Let's repair that. Thank you, Zeus. Let's get rid of that satyr. Let's upgrade this bank. Fantastic. Oh, we can get rid of these bats. Go, Ares! Get rid of those bats. All right. There we go. Get rid of this other satyr. All right. I feel like we're making good time. I feel like we're making some pretty good time. All right. All right. What do we need? Maybe a forge. Got a lot of like enemies to clear here, so. All right, everyone just go a little faster. Go a little faster. Here we go. All right, let's get rid of these bats. Anything else? So much. All right, let's get this little dolphin fin. And clear the river. All right, there. Look at Hermes go! Yay! All right. Oh, okay, we're missing gold. Okay, I was like, how come we can't go to the altar of Poseidon? Because we're not quite ready yet. That would be why. All right, let's go rescue that girl from those scary bats. Good job, Ares. Do automatic collection resources. Make this go a little faster. Excellent. Yeah. We're doing good here. All right, we're gonna clear some more bats out. We're gonna upgrade this forge so we get things a little faster. All right. Everybody is doing really well. Okay, do we need to do this again? I don't know if we do or not. All right, clear the river and repair the statue of Odysseus. We're not quite there yet. We need some more food and we need some more gold, it looks like. So let's go ahead and speed things up. We can do it. Yes! Got to clear the river. I thought I did this, but oh, here we go. We got a trophy. Nice. All right. All right, I don't think we have anything more that we can do. Let's see if we can get more money here. All right, there we go. Go back to the altar of Poseidon. Well, that'll clear the river. And Speed everybody up. Okay, here we go. We did it. Yay! We did it. We got we got 2 stars. Not bad. Another level completed. We did well. Huzzah. Can we actually repair anything? What is this? This box, but it didn't say what it is. Can we repair anything in Olympus? Do we have enough for anything? No, not quite yet. So I gotta go back to the map. At any rate, so what were we doing? We were discussing Hermes' role as a guide earlier, but it turns out, of course, Hermes isn't just a guide for the living, he's also a guide for the dead. And we see that at the end of the Odyssey when Hermes leads the suitors of Penelope down to the underworld after they've been killed by Odysseus, who, has just returned home after a 20-year absence. So Hermes is a guide to both the living and the dead. By the way, Homer has a bunch of epithets for Hermes here. Homer calls Hermes a bringer of luck, excellent in all tricks. So early on, Hermes is seen as very clever and cunning. What I really like is there is a reference in the Iliad to Hermes being able to increase people's flocks, which in turn is a reference perhaps to one of his oldest functions as a nature or pastoral deity. Now, what Homer doesn't call Hermes in the Iliad is a divine messenger. That role is played by the rainbow goddess Iris. It's not really till the Odyssey that Iris kind of disappears in the background and Hermes has taken over her role. For example, in the Odyssey, Hermes is sent by Zeus to relay to the nymph Calypso that she must let Odysseus go home after keeping him on her island for 7 years. So it's, obvious by then that Hermes has taken over the role as a divine messenger. And by the way, Iris doesn't completely disappear. Homer's near contemporary Hesiod briefly mentions the swift-footed rainbow goddess Iris, and eventually she does morph into the personal messenger of the queen of the gods, Hera. But Hermes, more often than not, is depicted as the divine messenger of the gods. And finally, it's interesting to note that in Book 24 of the Iliad, which I just mentioned, where Hermes helps Priam, it's interesting that the start of the chapter, a lot of the gods originally wanted Hermes to steal back Hector's body, not just guide Priam through the camp, but actually just go and steal Hector's body, which might be our first hint that Hermes is occasionally the patron of thieves. And in fact, I think in the Odyssey, a successful thief named Autolycus is called the son of Hermes. Now, why thievery? Because it still involves the transfer of goods, so Hermes helps transfer people, ideas, commodities, whether it's legal or not. So a lot of what we know about archaic Hermes really comes from Homer. But of course, he's not the only writer in the archaic period who talks about Hermes. For example, I mentioned Hesiod earlier, a near contemporary of Homer, and scholars think his works, including the Work and Days, the Shield of Heracles, the Theogony, were written somewhere between 750 and 650 BCE. Now, Hesiod only mentions Hermes a couple of times, once when relaying the story of Pandora's box, or really jar, and once when he's recounting the origins of the gods. And in the story of Pandora's box, Hesiod twice calls Hermes the guide, and also the slayer of Argos, echoing Homer's belief that Hermes is a giant slayer and a guide. And then, in the Theogony, which recounts the lineage of the gods, Hesiod briefly mentions Hermes by stating that the nymph Maia slept with Zeus, and her son is Hermes, quote, the good, the herald of the immortals. So we have some consensus on Hermes' role in the Greek pantheon as early as the 8th century BCE, which I find really cool. And this role is clarified and filled in by subsequent archaic works, which we will get to in a minute, including the famous Homeric hymn to Hermes. But Hermes has been patient enough, so let's play level 19. All right, Heavenly Gift. Acceleration is no longer a problem. Eliminate water spouts, drive away the wolves, feed citizens, and restore the Temple of Orpheus. Okay, we are going to do that. So, in gratitude for your help, the gods granted you a bonus to speed up the work. Okay, what is this? It looks like I don't know, is that a hammer? Is that a sign? I can't quite see what that's supposed to be. All right. Look at him. Look at him using his wand. That's fantastic. Winemakers prohibit planting olive groves in this area. Oh, great. Purchase food from a local trader. Oh, interesting. Okay, so we gotta repair the trader's tent, or building fast. Otherwise, we're going to run out of food. Gotcha. All right. Let's quickly get all of that out of the way. Uh-oh, there's a wolfie. There's a wolfie. We got to be careful. All right. Let's see. We're going to probably need... Do we need a quarry or do we need a bank or a forge? Probably yeah. All right. It's very tricky.
These.
Got to make those tough decisions. All right, here we go. Let's get more stuff out of the way. All right. We have not built a bank yet, I don't think. Okay. Then we're going to have... Let's see. We've got a forge. We can go ahead and upgrade that at some point. All right. I'm going to feed this person. We're going to accelerate. All right. Let's get this out of the way so we can feed her. All right, because we're trying to get to the trader's tent so we can get food. We're going to be very hungry. All right. All right. Whoop. First, we got to get this plant out of the way, but luckily we have enough weapons from the forge for Hermes to do that. All right. Another quarry. Get some more money. Yay, get some more food. Okay, so we need food. And more from the quarry. We can do it. We can do it. All right, let's accelerate again. All right. We're doing it. We're going as fast as we can. Oh, that wolf is still in the way, of course. We're working. We're working so hard. We're doing so well. Hermes is being very patient with us. All right, now we can get the broken trader's tent so we get some food. Get some food going. This is fantastic. All right. Yay. All right, we gotta light this though, because we gotta light the fire so the wolves go away. This is how do we do that? Like, how do I get down here? I'm trying to figure out which way to go. It's not totally clear to me. Let me get this out of the way, I guess. But how do I get down there? Do I go... I had to go up and around to get to this destroyed temple. It's not immediately clear how to get down here, though. Oh, I have to go down here. Wait, don't I? Does this road go down here? And below? I can't tell. It's very confused. Like, it's a little hard for me to see. This goes here. Okay. All right. We're gonna do this. We're gonna figure this out. You just need the wolfie to go away. All right. So we've got all of this. We just need to figure out how to get here. Oh, there we go. Okay, so this, okay, for last time I clicked on it, I couldn't get that out of the way. That would explain an awful lot. That was frustrating. All right, now we're cooking. Probably not going to get the great score, but I finally figured out what was going on there. Okay. Feed her. Get Zeus, get that out of the way. build that bridge.
This thieves.
All right. We're doing better. We're doing much better here. All right. We're speeding things up. We're speeding things along. It's really great. Let's repair this bridge. Let's get some more food. All right, good. They got that. All right. Keep going. Everybody's doing great. We've got to fix this Temple of Orpheus. Orpheus has been very patient. So has Hermes. He's just been chilling. All right. We need more food, but we're getting more food. Hurry, everybody. There's not much time. More food.
This thieves.
All right. All right, and we have 2 citizens we have to feed. If I can find them. Probably in my face. Oh, here they are. There's one, and then she has been patiently waiting for us to get those stones out of the way, and I think we will be ready finally. Huzzah. All right. All right, we finally completed. These levels are getting pretty tricky, though. I'm kind of surprised. Sorry, I'm moving my microphone. It was going to fall off the desk there. All right. All right, we didn't get any stars. We didn't deserve them, but that is fine. We did pretty good. We did under 7 minutes, so I will take the win. Speaking of wins, let's talk about Hermes' earliest win with a Homeric hymn to Hermes, which recounts Hermes' birth and how he became an Olympian. Now, these were a bunch of hymns that were written, many of them sometime between the early and late Archaic period, although some are actually much later. And the Homeric hymn to Hermes, you might actually know, so I'm just going to summarize it here, but it basically recounts Hermes' birth and how he becomes an Olympian. And in the hymn, Hermes is born in a cave to the lovely nymph Maya, and he is so precocious and clever. As soon as she puts him in swaddling clothes and falls asleep, because, hey, birth is hard, Hermes gets up and wanders off. And he comes across the sacred cattle of Apollo and decides he's hungry and he really wants to eat them. So in a bit of foreshadowing of his role as the patron of thieves, Hermes steals cattle and covers his tracks by teaching the cattle to walk backwards so you can't tell which way they're going or coming from. But of course, the cattle belong to Apollo, the god of light, medicine, and foresight. And that god knows exactly. He quickly puzzles out who stole his cattle. Furious, he tracks down his baby bro and demands his cattle back, or else he is going to hurl Hermes down into the depths of the underworld, and he is not kidding. However, Hermes, completely committed to the bit, pleads he's a whale baby and he didn't steal any cattle. But Apollo isn't having it and hauls Hermes before Zeus, king of the gods, and demands that Zeus tell Hermes to give his cattle back. But Hermes, who is very clever and silver-tongued, manages to charm Zeus, who knows perfectly well Hermes has the cattle, so Zeus tells the brothers, come on, you gotta find a way to reconcile. And Hermes has an idea. He's invented a musical instrument out of a tortoise shell called the lyre. And if he can keep the cattle, Apollo can have the lyre. And Apollo agrees, and this exchange, of course, is clearly a nod to Hermes being a god of commerce and Apollo being a god of music. And it's a very cute, humorous hymn, but how old is it? Because according to some scholars, it's possible that the form we have now was actually written in the late Archaic period or even the early Classical period, and that it might have something to do with promoting the Pisistratidae, a powerful clan that briefly ruled over Athens as tyrants from the mid to late 6th century BCE. However, there is no denying the story of Hermes stealing Apollo's cattle is very, very old. And in fact, there is a lost hymn to the 7th century BCE poet Alcaeus on the very subject matter. So whether the hymn to Hermes dates from the time of Homer or not, Hermes is very much in early Archaic poetry. In fact, he appears in other hymns, Homeric hymns that are ancient. So, for example, the very old hymn to Demeter and the hymn to Aphrodite. And in the hymn to Demeter, which is about the kidnapping of Demeter's daughter Persephone by Hades and the search to get her back, Hermes appears at the end of the hymn as a divine messenger whose job it is to relay Zeus's will, which is that Hades must let Persephone go to her mother for 2/3 of the year, and then in winter Persephone will return to the underworld. And his job, of course, is to relay messages between the upper air and the lower air. And in this hymn, Hermes is called the strong slayer of Argos. So again, that giant killer aspect of Hermes is stressed. And that epithet is also echoed in the hymn to Aphrodite, which recounts how Aphrodite fell in love with a mortal and then had a child famously named Aeneas, the Trojan prince, who is much later celebrated as the ancestor of the Romans in the Aeneid. Now, in multiple Homeric hymns, Hermes is continuously called strong, krateros, which I find really interesting because it's a nod to another one of his many functions, which is he's the patron deity of young athletes, including wrestlers. So not only is he swift, a popular description of Hermes throughout antiquity, he's also strong. And speaking of archaic poetry, Hermes is the star of several Aesop fables, some of which, at least, stretch back to the 6th century BCE. So again, the archaic period. And one of the more humorous fables I want to share with you guys, which is a dog comes across a herm, those statues of Hermes that we've talked about before, and wishes to, quote unquote, anoint it in order to honor the god, the god of athletes. And the herm politely asks the dog not to pee on him or lick off the oil used to anoint the statue. That would be the best way to honor Hermes. And it's pretty humorous and cute. And Hermes is actually the star of a number of other humorous Aesop fables that involve tricking humans or being tricked by them. But Hermes never really gets angry. He's pretty chill. He loves a good trick. Okay, so let's keep going here with level 20. I'm afraid I have triple vision. This is Cerberus, one of the most horrible and aggressive monsters of Hades. Shouldn't it, guard the entrance to the Kingdom of the Dead? It should be said there. All right, so the three-headed monster on the hunt. Cerberus has poisonous jaws and razor-sharp fangs. Clear the way to the beach, send enemies to the underworld, fight Cerberus, activate the altar of Zeus. Okay. Where is everything? Oh, okay, this is a very ominous underworld gate over here. We're gonna have to rescue these citizens. All right, I'm gonna send the enemies to the underworld. We've got a lot to do. I'm looking for Cerberus on here. Oh, there he is. He's right in front of the maidens. Okay, we'll pet the good boy. And Hermes actually gets along with everyone. He's never adverse to anything Hades does or represents. They actually work together. So, fun little fact there. Okay. Let's get started. Let's see how fast we can do this. There we go. Okay. And we were talking about the different ways that Hermes is worshipped in the Archaic period. And ever since the Bronze Age, he was worshipped in the form of either a heap of stones, which we see right here, which we'll clear in just a moment. And then later, authors talk about ancient wooden statues, which were probably popular in the Archaic period. Pausanias, the 2nd century AD, 1st or 2nd century AD travel writer, actually mentions that there are some Hermes cults that seem to be from great antiquity. Now, he doesn't say exactly how old they are. He just hints at their antiquity. But he does mention like a local oracle in the Peloponnese to Hermes that involved putting oil near the statue and lighting it, so lighting the wicks. And then you whisper a question to the statue, the herm, and then you cover your ears and you leave the marketplace. And then you uncover your ears as soon as you leave the marketplace. And whatever the first thing you hear is, whatever the first phrase you hear is, that's the oracle of Hermes. So that's the answer to your question, which I thought was really an interesting story. And throughout the Peloponnese especially, there's a temple of Hermes and statues of Hermes, right? He's just very popular all over Greece. But he was especially popular in Athens, and there's a story attributed to Plato. We don't know if it's actually Plato. There's some debate about it. But Plato tells a story of the son of the tyrant Pisistrated, Hipparchus, who was the one who came up with an idea to turn wooden herms into marble so that they're longer lasting, and then giving these herms a smooth side that you could write on. And he would write little maxims that it's just like from Hipparchus, you know, when you're walking, think good thoughts or think just thoughts, right? And it seems like the Pisistrated were proponents of Hermes. And they did a number of building projects. And they also created the altar of the 12 gods in Athens. And that the Hermes that Hipparchus built not only had these cute little maxims about, you know, thinking the right thoughts and doing the right thing, but these Hermes would also tell you how far you were from Athens if you were walking around the countryside. It's kind of an interesting little detail. All right. Speaking of little details, trying to think what we need here. Do we need more food? Do we need more? About a forge here. There we go. All right, Hermes can take care of that. Let's get Zeus to take care of that. All right. Get some more food here. These ruins. Let's fix this broken builder's tent. Let's get some more weaponry here. All right. What do you need? All right, we need some more gold, it looks like, before Ares will move. Understandable. And then we need some more gold here as well. Okay. Let's get this lightning bolt going. So we want to send the enemies to the underworld. Great. By the way, another form that you will see Hermes worshipped in is as a ram bearer, because of course he's a pastoral god, but also there are very ancient statues. It's always a youth or a young warrior carrying a ram around his shoulders. And that was a common motif very early on in the Archaic period, and eventually, because of its sort of pastoral nature, it's attributed to Hermes. And there is a story recorded about how, I think it's by Pausanias, that in Boeotia, sorry, I can't pronounce anything today. Sorry, it's Tanagra, I believe, in sort of the central northern-ish part of Greece, where there was a plague. And the people prayed to avert this plague, and Hermes showed up, and he walked around the walls of the city carrying a ram, and it got rid of the plague. And the grateful citizens worshipped Hermes and had a festival in honor of this event because they were so grateful. And I think the same city-state claims that Hermes helped them in a war where he showed up as a warrior or a young athlete with an oil scraper. So athletes would rub themselves down with olive oil, and then they'd use some sort of metal scraper to scrape off the excess olive oil. I think I'm remembering that correctly. Sorry, it's hard to play the game and give a history lesson at the same time. All right, we're gonna do it. We're gonna get rid of not get rid of, but we are going to move aside. Cerberus, he's being a good boy. We still love him. All right, we save the citizens. Master of Duel. Okay, sweet. All right, what do we have to do? We still have to send the enemies to the underworld. All right. We can do that. We can do it. We've got this. There we go. Didn't I activate the altar of Zeus already? Alright, I swear I already did that. Weird. Alright. Here we go. Alright. We can do this. We've got this. We've got this. Upgrade. Go, go, go. All right. Yes.
It's thieves.
Go. Send the enemies away.
All
All right, what am I missing here? So it says, oh, clear the way to the beach. Okay. Oh, there it is. I was like, what am I missing? I totally missed that bridge. I was looking in the absolute wrong direction. Okay, my bad. That was silly. We got this. We're not going to get any stars for it, but it's okay. We did our best. We can always come back. We absolutely can. Okay. Yay! We did it! We did the thing. Okay. 7 minutes. Okay, not so great, but we did the best we could. All right. So we reached the famous blue caves. I hope we can find a way here. This is a great place to stop.